This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome. You are entering the Stone Zone. Well, we've got a full-blown Twitter war, X war, between Elon Musk and President Donald Trump. Look, I think Musk is a great patriot. And when he bought Twitter and turned it into X, the largest free speech site in the country, he put a big target on his back. Suddenly, he found that his previously liberal friends were investigating all 9 of his companies, and he came to the conclusion that they would destroy his companies and probably send him to jail. It was then that he decided to give his financial and personal support and efforts to Donald Trump. And I think he did help us win the election. I think he's done an amazing job at Doge, ferreting out not millions, not billions, but trillions of dollars. But he decides he doesn't like the big, beautiful bill, but that's not really what he's mad about. He's right about the big, beautiful bill not having enough spending reduction, but a budget rescission bill, just structurally, I worked in the House of Representatives, Congressman Bob Steele of Connecticut, is not the place to do that. That would be in a rescission bill. Stephen Miller has a rescission bill going up to the Congress that will cut $98.4 billion. So that's not really what he's mad at. But this insane attack on Trump, saying Trump is in the Twitter files, that's why he's not releasing them, is categorically false. Trump was on Epstein's plane one time, that is publicly recorded. With him was Marla Maples and his daughter Tiffany. They went from New York to Palm Beach and back on a weekend at the time that Trump's plane was in the shop. Trump never visited his palatial apartment in palatial townhome in Manhattan, like Steve Bannon did. He didn't he didn't go to his ranch in New Mexico. The one and only time Trump was in Epstein's home in Palm Beach, according to Virginia Giuffre, one of the Epstein victims, in her sworn testimony, it was a cocktail reception for a charity, and that Trump was a perfect gentleman, and she witnessed no inappropriate activity by Trump. This is the one and only time that Trump is in Epstein's home. He barred Epstein prior to Epstein being charged with a sex crime. So Trump learned of Epstein making an inappropriate advance on a young girl who worked in the spa at the Mar-a-Lago Club, and he had security bar him from the site for a permanent ban. He was barred from all Trump properties. This was prior to his being exposed and charged in Florida for sex crimes. The police chief, who does a 6-month undercover investigation, gives the state prosecutor a case for the sex trafficking and statutory rape of 33 children. But the prosecutor, under pressure from Alan Dershowitz and Gerald Lefcourt and Leon Black and the other high-priced lawyers, Jeffrey Epstein, they reduced that to 1 count of solicitation. So Epstein gets a pass that I think is due to his connections with the intelligence agencies. We'll talk about that, but I want to bring in David Schoen, criminal defense attorney. He was retained by Jeffrey Epstein 9 days before Epstein's death. David and I agree that we think it is unlikely, based on the medical examination by Dr. Michael Baden, the longtime respected New York medical examiner, that Epstein committed suicide, with all due respect to Kash Patel. But David discussed some of these matters with his client. David, welcome to the Stone Zone.
Thank you very much.
So this canard of Trump and Epstein, this was concocted by the Clintons because, you see, the Clintons continued to not only socialize but take millions of dollars from Epstein after he was convicted in Florida of a sex crime. And they continued to socialize with him. Bill was on the Lolita Express 23 times, according to the FAA manifest. I believe he visited the island just based on the documents in the various lawsuits of Epstein's victims. I would say Bill was on the island at least 17 times. It was Epstein who provided the seed capital for the Clinton Foundation. But they have continued to spread this myth that Trump is the one that has vulnerabilities through his relationship with Epstein. Can you speak to this, David?
Yes, it's absolutely untrue. I know it for a fact. I discussed it with Mr. Epstein. And let me make something clear. You know, I posted on X or Twitter, whatever it's called, last night to set the record straight on this. A number of people wrote in saying, oh, well, he's violating attorney-client privilege. I can assure you I have not and never would and never have violated attorney-client privilege. This is an important point to Mr. Epstein. He didn't like it when people were falsely accused of being involved with him in illegal, improper activities, and so on. I specifically asked him about President Trump. And remember, this is at a time when it would have been in his best interest to implicate as many people as he could have, especially big shots, if he were inclined to go that way. And I had, very frank and candid discussions with him, as I had to have in preparing his case.
But today comes shocking news. Kash Patel says in an interview that they have no videos whatsoever of Jeffrey Epstein or any of his associates committing a crime. Now, we know for an absolute certainty, because we saw it with our own eyes, that they left his palatial home in New York. It's the single most expensive single-family home in Manhattan, with boxes and boxes of DVDs and hard drives. Also true of the Radiant's Palm Beach home. Who knows what they grabbed at the island. Where are those records? I think what Kash Patel is telling us is they have been destroyed, which is what I believe. We have a cover-up here. His death is a cover-up. His murder, in my opinion, is a cover-up. Why? Well, because I think it was Alex Acosta, the prosecutor, who gave him a slap on the wrist when he was appointed labor secretary, and he's preparing for Senate confirmation. A lawyer I know says to him, who's helping him, says to him, what are you going to say if they ask you why you gave Epstein a slap on the wrist? He says, well, I'm going to tell the truth, that he worked for the CIA, that the CIA director came to me and said, he's one of ours. We just want you to seal this case, which they did. The Epstein case was sealed for many years. The Palm Beach Post went to court to ultimately get these records unsealed. What do we learn? Epstein gets a 18-month sentence, but he's the only prisoner in the state of Florida who's allowed to serve his sentence in the county jail in the air-conditioned brand new wing. He only has to be, quote unquote, in jail from 10 at night until 6 in the morning. Otherwise, he's free to go. The sheriff's office is driving around like a security detail, and he only serves 15 of his 18-month sentences and goes right back to running his international sex trafficking and child abuse networks. And my guess is that that tells you the story. I believe Epstein, David, was he was an equal opportunity blackmailer. He worked for the CIA, as we know. I believe he probably worked for the Mossad and the Saudis as well. His entire story is improbable. He did not make his money. He has no hedge fund. So he goes from being an impoverished math teacher in Manhattan to being a billionaire by blackmailing people out of their money.
I believe I would have won Jeffrey Epstein's case at trial. I believe I would have won it in pretrial motions. If I didn't win it in pretrial motions, I would have won it at trial. And that was my role in the case, was to represent him. And I knew his case pretty well.
Well, look, this is a very key point. In America, everybody is entitled to both have a good lawyer and a fair trial. Both are very hard to get, I might add. And David, everybody's entitled to a stout legal defense. But I see this greater issue, and we're going to talk to Jack Posobiec from Human Events about this. This is the split in MAGA, and it causes some split, is not helpful. Steve Bannon saying, Elon Musk, we should deport him. Well, first of all, he's a U.S. citizen, so he can't be deported. And secondarily, he says the government should seize his companies. That's what we call communism. That's what Castro did. So I guess Steve is desperate for the clicks. I'm not happy that Elon Musk decided to air the family laundry in public. And again, he tells us this is about the big beautiful bill, but it's not clear that it isn't about these other issues where I think he had some sense of frustration. But I hope he and Trump can put it back together because it was a winning combination. I mean, I do think that he helped us win. I also think he's doing a great service on X, formerly known as Twitter. By the way, you can find me at Roger J. Stone Jr., Roger J. Stone Jr. Until yesterday, David Schoen, attorney at law, had never posted on his Twitter profile. How did your first post do, David?
The first post seems to have done pretty well. It looks like it shows 7.5 million views and 107,000 likes. But let me say this, Roger. I don't believe that there's any person in this country who knows and understands more about politics and the American political scene, maybe others, better than you do, or as well as you do even. So you have a much greater sense of all of these broader issues than I do. What was important to me, and the reason I decided to post this time, was I don't like to see anyone falsely accused. And it's an important matter when it's the President of the United States. And I don't know that Elon Musk is accusing President Trump of having done something wrong. He said that he appears in the files. That's why the files were presented. I don't have any idea what's in any files. I know what the truth is in this case. I know that Jeffrey Epstein confided in me fully, and I know that I asked him specifically about this subject, and he assured me that he had no bad information about Donald Trump whatsoever at a time in which it would have behooved him to have had and to have used bad information if he had it.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. But again, the left jumps on this now. Strangely enough, the Democrats are jumping up and down, saying that the Epstein files should be released. I think they should be, but I think what Kash Patel is telling us is that most of the material is missing. Epstein's telephone book, the so-called Little Black Book, was published in my book, The Clintons' War on Women, in 2015. It was initially published by Gawker. Nick Bryant, who's a brilliant investigative reporter, was the first reporter to uncover the Epstein scandal, but he was a freelancer, and he went to all of the big magazines and newspapers of the day, and nobody would touch this incendiary story until Gawker finally broke the story. We learned who Jeffrey Epstein was. And then between the time that Epstein served his 15 months of soft time for his state crime, and when he's asked whether his crime was serious of molesting children, he said, "It's no worse than stealing a bagel," his quote. Between that time and the time he ultimately gets charged federally, it's only because of a reporter named Julie K. Brown with the Miami Herald. She is dogged. She knows that justice has not been done in this case, and she is dogged in breaking it open. And her stunning series of stories on Epstein are what finally drive federal prosecutors to grab Epstein. They didn't raid his home like they did with me. They came up to him in public. They even let the two nice FBI agents let them put a coat over his handcuffs. Very different than the way they treated me and my wife. There's this is a misfire by Elon, and I hope he will get back focused on free speech again.
If I can make one more quick point.
Certainly.
If I can make one more quick point.
You have 22 seconds.
It's important for all your listeners to keep in mind. As you say, there was this book Many names appear in the book who did absolutely nothing wrong with Jeffrey Epstein. So
Absolutely.
when someone says this name is in a file, it's important. When I met with him several months before he was dead, in order for him to ask me if I would take over all of his litigation. He had fine lawyers at the time. I wasn't sure I wanted to. At that time, when I went to his house, I met with a former prime minister at his house. He had a picture of Bill Gates with a dollar bill in it. I asked, what's that about? He said he made a bet with Bill Gates. What was he going to bet him? So he bet him $1. He knew a lot of prominent people. All of those people loved being around him, wanted to be around him. All of a sudden, they all, never heard of him, never knew anything about him.
Yeah, all of that is true. All right, we got to go to a break. They're in the Stone Zone. Thanks to our guest, David Schoen.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.